Kuwait just did something unprecedented in the Middle East. And folks, make no mistake, this one has global implications. All right, folks, this one falls into the category of you can't make this stuff up. And make no mistake, you don't see things like this happening in the Middle East, especially decisions that are being made by nations. Folks, this is unbelievable, and it has implications that relate not only to the rest of the world, but it certainly speaks to things that we know we should be expecting in the end times. And folks, this one's wild. Look, if I was reading this and it was in Europe, or if I was reading this and it was in the United States of America or somewhere in the West, it would make perfect sense because that seems to be the natural progression where things are going. But for this one to come out of the Middle East, especially as it relates to technology, this is mind-boggling. And this one is going to set a precedent and a fire like nobody has ever seen. Here's the article. It says this: Kuwait to freeze bank accounts of residents who do not register biometric fingerprints. Folks, make no mistake about it. You don't give them your fingerprint, and you are going to experience significant consequences. This is not just wear your hijab. This is not just a simple follow Sharia law. It gets a whole lot deeper here, and the implications of this are remarkable. Let me read this to you. It says, Kuwait is mandating a biometric registration process for citizens and expatriates. Those who fail to register their fingerprints by the set deadlines will face consequences such as suspended government services and frozen bank accounts. It is claimed that the reasons for enforcing the registration of digital biometrics are to enhance security and address dual nationality issues. However, this initiative aligns with global trends in biometrics and the sharing of our data with selected agencies. Folks, make no mistake about this. Understand this, know this. This has everything to do with the future world of the final Antichrist. That's what this stuff is about. This is actually unbelievable that it's happening in the Middle East, but we shouldn't be surprised. I'm telling you, it is kind of surprising to me because I didn't think it'd be happening this fast. But folks, it's kind of a big deal. Listen to what the next paragraph says. It says, it's no coincidence that at the same time, the United Nations is pushing for a global digital compact to be adopted by 193 countries so it can play a significant role in the global governance of artificial intelligence, the internet, digital public goods, and digital infrastructure. Folks, I have talked about this again and again and again about the largest terrorist organization in the world, the United Nations, and they continue to stand in a very unique position where they want to control the whole world. This is something that they've always wanted to do, and they know that one of the greatest and most let's just say extensive avenues into this is going to be through the digital world, specifically digital biometrics, AI, and all of these other things that we've been talking about. Look what it goes on to say. It says, Kuwait is preparing to suspend government services for people who fail to register their fingerprints by the set deadlines. 30th of September 2024 for Kuwaitis and the 30th of December 2024 for expatriates. There are approximately 175,000 citizens and 800,000 expats who still need to complete the biometric registration process. The Central Bank of Kuwait has directed banks to implement measures like suspension of electronic channels, blocking of bank cards, and eventually freezing accounts for those who do not comply with the registration requirements. This will also affect financial assets like shares, funds, and investment portfolios. And folks, when you look at everything that's happening here, it all falls right in line with the final Antichrist's world. It falls right in line with everything that we read about in Revelation 13, and it literally lays down the foundation necessary for this type of enforcement action that we read about that's going to take place with the final Antichrist and, of course, the false prophet. It all is coming together, and it should be no surprise that we're seeing this happening in the Middle East, but I'm a little shocked at how fast it's actually taking place and the rates of fury by which they are seeking to enforce this stuff. It's unbelievable, and make no mistake about it, they are undoubtedly receiving support from other places that want to see this fall into line. So this is some pretty heavy stuff. Look what it goes on to say. It's pretty important. If people do not meet the fingerprinting deadline, their electronic banking channels will be disabled, bank cards will be blocked, and their accounts will be frozen. However, deductions for loans and mortgages will continue. While travel rights will not be affected, illegal residents crossing the border will be required to submit fingerprint registrations. Folks, I just want everybody to understand this, okay? Because this is like really, really important to pay attention to. What I'm reading to you right now is something that, although it might not seem as extreme to some people because they're still able to pay their debt, they're still able to take care of certain obligations, this is uniquely extreme, because what it's doing is it's opening up the door to create an absolute law that makes a very definitive consequence for not wanting to comply or not wanting to give a portion of your identity that cannot be traced with anybody else. Digital biometrics is the beginning of all of this. This is where it all starts. And them wanting to do this, and then, of course, threatening to seize your assets or freeze your assets, makes a substantial difference in the way that the game is played. Okay? It's really important to see this. By the way, there's a lot of articles on this. There's so much being published about this very story. In March of 2024, this is what the article goes on to say, it was revealed that the country also intends to share biometric data as part of a regional security network. Here's a question that I have. Who's part of that regional network? Is Iran part of that regional network? Is a portion of Iraq part of that regional network? Are we talking about certain biometric constructs that are being created for the building of a city like Babylon? What are we talking about here? Are we talking about the enemies of Israel? There's so much right now that is in play. Is the United States of America aiding in this process? Is this something that is involving a much more sophisticated conglomerate of nations that are seeking to do something very different here? There's too many questions to be asked here, and what we're looking at is super, super significant. This is a big deal. Look what it goes on to say. It says, it is claimed that the aim of the initiative to register biometric fingerprints for both citizens and expatriates is to address dual nationality issues and enhance security measures by detecting individuals using fraudulent passports. Doesn't it always start that way? Does it always start with, we want to give you more security, or we want to keep fraudulent activity from happening, or we want to keep you from getting ripped off? It's all about, let me give you comfort for a piece of your freedom. Let me give you a little bit of rest so long as you give me control. That's exactly what's happening here. And folks, you haven't seen the beginning of it yet. I'm telling you, it's about to get way worse than you think. Look what this article continues to say. Kuwait plans to collaborate with Interpol and Gulf Cooperation Council countries to establish a robust security network. This partnership aims to address the challenges posted by dual nationals using multiple identities while traveling between countries. Folks, think about this. This is crazy, okay? Like, if you're a citizen of Kuwait, but you want to leave the country and live somewhere else, that makes you an expatriate. That means that you still are required to comply with their rules, or they'll come after you no matter where you are. What they're doing is building the infrastructure to go after those who will not submit to the Antichrist. That's where we're going here. They're getting people involved like Interpol, okay? Or the GCC. I mean, think about how crazy that is. They are getting people who already have a whole load of power to continue to enforce things that they want enforced. This is nuts. And the thing that's crazy about it is it's coming from Kuwait. It's just wild. All right, let me continue to read this. It says the move comes as Kuwait is home to a large foreign population, many of whom hold dual citizenship or temporary work visas. Biometric fingerprinting, the official identification method in Kuwait, is expected to streamline the entry process for visitors and residents. It's funny, with as serious as they take their border, maybe we should learn a lesson or two from that, but that's a whole other story for a whole other time. It goes on to say this, the initiative is part of a wider trend, notice this, in global biometrics advancements, with other countries adopting similar measures to enhance security and streamline travel processes. Folks, it's true. It's crazy. Look what it goes on to say. As we mentioned in an article earlier this month, the European Union is introducing an automated border registration computer system for registering travelers from countries outside the EU. And while the EU and EU countries roll out biometric digital IDs and facial recognition across various public services, including border control, U.S. authorities continue to push for access to EU member states' biometric databases. Folks, they're going to get it. And the way that they're going to get it, make no mistake about this, the way they're going to get it is by agreeing to give the EU your biometric data. Okay? And remember, I think that these 10 nations, these 10 kingdoms, so to speak, are going to be coming right out of this EU area. Okay? So all of this is falling into place. It's all coming together. It makes a whole lot of sense what's happening here. Look what it goes on to say. On the 22nd to the 23rd of September, the United Nations, yes, that terrorist organization, anyway, sorry, is holding the Summit of the Future. The UN is hoping the outcome of the summit is that 193 nations will adopt the Pact for the Future with its annexes, Declaration on Future Generations, and Global Digital Compact. The Pact and its annexes stem from the United Nations Secretary General, here it is, Antonio Guterres' report, Our Common Agenda. Now, folks, we spent a lot of time going over that Our Common Agenda report. It is atrocious. What he calls for is undoubtedly filled with the spirit of Antichrist. There's all kinds of things that we identified in that report that are absolutely terrible. And even in his as you would call it, executive summary that he started the report with, the things that he called for were absolutely 1984-ish. Okay, you know what I mean when I say that? I mean, these things were absolutely Orwellian in nature. And it isn't anything that should surprise us because we know what the Bible tells us to expect in the future, especially in this region and in the world. It goes on to say this: in preparation for the summit, Guterres has released 11 policy briefs that are set to reshape our world. That's his quote. They are set to reshape our world. And folks, look at this thing. Let me put up the picture for you. These are the symbols that they have adapted for it, okay? And these are the areas that they're going to be touching. It's crazy, okay? Here it is. Future generations. Emergency platform. We spent some time, by the way, talking about the adaptation of this emergency platform. It looks like this big old ugly web that is designed to basically create crisis so that you have authority to impeach upon people or impress upon people your will while taking away theirs. It's that real, okay? Youth engagement. That is, how do we brainwash the younger generation? Beyond GDP. Okay, Global Digital Compact. Again, we have talked about these sections. We spent a lot of time about this. This is a big one. Information technology. And this is a section that's changing all the time because they want to be able to utilize the components of information technology, specifically AI, to rewrite the truth and to gaslight people. Okay, here's another one. IFA. We've talked about this one for a long time. International finance architecture, outer space, peace, education, UN 2.0, which, by the way, UN 2.0 is what is going to end up touching climate change and all the other stuff that they use to continue to brainwash people. Okay, look what the article goes on to say. It says, in an article that explains the preparations being made for the Summit of the Future, including an overview of the 11 policy briefs, Jacob Nordengard, I think it's Nordengard, said the 11 policy briefs contained a blueprint for a digital system, the Global Digital Compact, that will be run with the help of, quote, trustworthy artificial intelligence. Is there such thing as trustworthy artificial intelligence? We can assume that trustworthy means that it will not criticize UN policies like the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. And I agree. The AI has to be in tune with AI algorithm. I think that's pretty funny. Instead of algorithm, AI algorithm. Look, this is where I say there is no trustworthy AI in the context of the UN. There's no way you're going to trust AI in that context because that AI will do exactly what it's designed to do, and that is manipulate the facts. That's exactly what it's going to end up doing, and it's going to do it in a very convincing way. Look what the article goes on to say. It says, within the Global Digital Compact, the UN is pushing for it to play a significant and governing role in artificial intelligence globally. As noted by the Brownstone Institute, the UN somehow manages to link the implementation of the SDGs to its ability to control and implement AI and exert governance over the internet, digital public goods and infrastructure, and AI too. Guterres stated the UN's aim for imposing itself as the global enabler and accelerator of AI during a 2023 press conference. This is what he says: the 2030 Agenda, our global blueprint for peace and prosperity on a healthy planet, is in deep trouble. AI could help to turn that around. It could supercharge climate action and efforts to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Folks, it's ridiculous. It's a con. It's a bunch of nonsense. But that's exactly where things are going. Folks, it is rapidly running in that arena. It is going faster and it is going out with more intention because they want to change the world, and they want to change the world in a way that is going to rapidly bring it into the time era that we read about in the book of Revelation. By the way, for those of you that might not remember, and I know many of you do because you are an audience that stays in tune, let me read to you what Revelation chapter 13 says, because there is a very, very important aspect that I want to emphasize. And of course, we've done this many times, but let's get into this. This is around the last few verses of Revelation 13 because it is essential in understanding the bigger picture, okay? Look what it says. This is really important, okay? It says this in verse 16 of Revelation 13, and he causeth all, both small and great, this is talking about the Antichrist, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is the wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Folks, that is exactly the world that we are heading towards. And when you read about this story in Kuwait, that is exactly the direction that we are running into. I am saying this because all of this stuff really truly feels like it is falling apart. It feels like the world is falling apart, but in reality, according to what we know from the scriptures, it's all coming together. And I want you to be aware of the things that are happening because they are wanting to numb you. They are wanting to get you to be accepting of all of these possibilities. They want you to think about these things as a normal part of everyday life because it's all about the gaslighting that's necessary to get you to the place where you will accept the infrastructure that will rule your life and your world. Now, the good news is this. If you're a Christian, you won't be here for this. You're going to see the infrastructure developing. You may be made to give your fingerprint up or that type of thing. Good luck with that. But my point behind it is you aren't going to be here when the Antichrist does what he does. The Bible actually tells us that the Antichrist can't even be revealed to the world until Christians are raptured. We learn about that in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. But what I do need to bring up, and I think is very, very important, is that more than ever, it's critical for us to know what the scriptures say about these things, to be warned, to be thinking about these things insightfully and intentionally. We need to understand what's happening in the world around us, and we need to act based on what the scriptures teach us, not on our emotions, not on what we think is going to fix a problem that's immediate in front of us. It all has to be based on what we know from the word of God, and we need to follow his word to do what he says. It's that simple. And folks, hold on to the seat of your pants because so much is rapidly changing in the current day and in the current moment. And here's the good news. Christ could come at any moment, and we are going to end up going with him so long as we have received him into our heart. And that's the thing that I would ask you today. Have you received Christ into your life? If you have not said, Lord, I receive you. I believe the free gift that you made available to me. I believe in you, and I receive the free gift you made available to me. Folks, I'm telling you, there's no other way to go. The only place where we have hope is in Christ Jesus. Follow him, seek him. He's the only hope we have. God bless you guys.